Good afternoon. I hope everybody's doing well. It's always a pleasure to be here with you. I'm your host, Brannan, with another episode of Forecasting Success. And before we get started, I would like to thank, as always, our title sponsor, ARAWC. It's a great pleasure to work with you, and even more fun to do these and bring some of the most innovative leaders that we have in our industry to you and get a chance to get to know them a little bit better and how they got to be where they are and what they see for the future. In other words, forecasting success, right? So today, I'd like to introduce you to Michelle Villarreal. Michelle, it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Ryan. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Why don't you tell everybody who you are, what you do, a little bit about yourself.
Okay. My name is Michelle Villarreal. I own and operate a TPA by the name of Occupational Accident Risk. I have been in the industry for just over 30 years. I've owned a TPA for 17. Started off in the mailroom 30 years ago at Cigna Companies, and when actually HEB was still a subscriber and when they opted out. So I was there from the very onset. And I was interested in becoming an adjuster. I was told in order to do that, I needed to leave and go work in TPAs. And I left and went and worked in TPAs, and it was great. But my first exposure to non-sub was through that, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was a great alternative, and that's where I ended up.
Okay, so let's start with where you are now.
Okay.
So you started your company 17 years ago?
Yes.
But what made you want to jump out and start your own company?
Well, I was working for a woman-owned business at the time. I was so impressed with what they were able to do, especially in this arena, in the non-sub. I knew that it was a niche market. I knew that I had something to offer. And so I actually left and I went to work at the city of San Antonio and filed all my licenses, my resumes, everything with TDI to see if I could get approved. And we got approved, and I opened my business. And my husband will tell you that you should always listen to your wife at dinner, because he ignored me when I said I was doing this and I quit a perfectly good job. And then his law firm came out on 60 Minutes that they were doing tax fraud, and it closed.
Oh, no.
So he was out of a job within 30 days, no insurance. I had no clients. I didn't take any clients when I left. And so I put my feet to the fire. And within, I'd say 3 to 4 years, I realized I was going to have to bring workers' comp into what we did, because non-sub, you know, with their bottom lines and the type of employers that are non-sub, I wasn't going to get anybody to look at my P&L and give me any type of program. So University Health Systems in San Antonio was the first one, and they took a chance, and they pointed out that my P&L was not all that. But in about 5 years, we had a good group of cities and counties and school districts, and then we had a very large non-subscriber client come on, a carrier. And then we've been, you know, blowing and going since then. We rebranded in 2019, and now we only do non-sub.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what caused the transition from doing both to just doing non-sub?
The workers' comp arena, I'm not a fan. It serves its purpose, but the cities and the school districts and those cannot non-subscribe. And so we brought those on. It's a lot of paperwork. In my opinion, non-subscriber runs so much better. Because it doesn't have all that red tape, because they do the liability. I think when you're cognitive of that, you do a better job in your program. So it just wasn't worth the politics and the problems with TDI and the things that I saw. And non-sub was my arena, it's my backyard. And so I thought, let's try and see if we can do it exclusively, and it's worked out.
That's great to hear. You're not the first guest that we've had that talks about how the non-sub employers pay more attention to the claims, more hands-on, more focused than their traditional workers' comp employer. So to that end, I noticed on your website that you talk about being hands-on, and you talk about the attention that you give to each claim. Can you speak a little bit more about that? Specifically, you know, kind of what a TPA does as far as claims management, and then specifically how you separate yourself.
Yeah. So I've had an adjuster's license for over 20 years. I'm grandfathered in now. And so I actually started in the mailroom at Cigna. I moved up, I got my adjuster's license, and I love it. It's just what I've always done. So when I started the TPA, and I have a great group of people that I've known forever. They're people that I worked with as an adjuster. They really helped, but I couldn't really get my fingers out of it. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Our clients love that they can pick up the phone, they can call me. It's not always convenient, but I feel like we've got a better relationship that way. We have 100% client retention, but we also have 100% employee retention. And I think that's just from being present. I understand the adjusters. I've been an adjuster. I try not to take advantage of that. We keep the claim count low. They're great adjusters. We have a very big carrier excess program. And so they do reservations of rights. They do subrogation recoveries. They do a lot of things that a lot of other TPAs have to have departments for. And our adjusters are just cradle to grave, excellent people. So we do a great job of claim investigation. I think claims is interesting. To this day, I work with a great supervisor. And to this day, she and I, we've worked together 20 years. We find the craziest things in claims, and makes for great dinner conversation. And my husband listens now.
I bet he does, but probably in a good way, right? I mean, obviously, you start out in a mailroom, then you build your own company at a time when you lose both income, and you still make it work. So that's a testament to you for
Thank
sure.
you.
And the fact that all your employees stay there, 100% client retention, 100% employee retention, that's almost unheard of.
Yeah.
So that's really, really impressive.
I'm very proud of them. 2 of them just passed 10 years. So we celebrated that. And for a small company, I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot. But like I said, I've been an adjuster, so we provide everything. They get the retirement and the 401ks, and I just try to keep them happy, and they definitely keep me happy.
All right, so I got to know where this grit came from. So the just desire to succeed and make it happen, was that something you were born with, or is that something that just kind of came along somewhere along the way?
You know, I don't know if it was nature or nurture or how it happened. I wanted to go to college. I went to St. Mary's for 2 years. And the way I got into insurance was really weird. I was at St. Mary's. I wanted to be an attorney. I went to work at a law firm interning. And my supervisor took me around, very nice, introduced me to everybody. I went back to the dorm and I said, I met the man I'm going to marry. And they said, you've lost your mind. And so my supervisor was the man I ended up marrying 34 years ago. And so when that happened, of course, I had to leave. And so when I left, I found a job at Cigna. And I thought, okay, so I kind of fell in it, but couldn't finish school. I mean, I think every time something's been thrown at me, I've kind of realized, no, that's not the answer. You just keep plugging away, and that's worked for me. I'm happy where I'm at. And, you know, I don't have to be at the top, but I certainly am not going to be at the bottom.
That's very well said.
Thank you.
So when we're talking about Cigna and your first job in this space, what along those 13 years made you want to leave and start your own firm?
Well, I watched, like I said, I worked for a TPA, and it was a woman-owned business, and I watched what she was able to do, and it was just impressive. I was very impressed with what she was able to do. I loved this market. I loved non-sub, and it was niche, and I knew there were only a few TPAs that were good at it. A lot of TPAs will do it, but there was a few that were good at it. I felt like I could be good at it, and I just had to step out there and try.
Yeah.
So I did, and it was successful. I remember my son, my youngest son, who the baby's now 29, but I remember him telling me, and I said, look, you know, I'm just so worried. I don't want to disappoint you. And he said, I'd be more disappointed if you didn't try. So that was my inspiration, and it's worked out well.
Okay, so you said that there's a lot of adjusters out there. Some of them are good at it. Some of them aren't good at it. What makes someone good at it?
You know, there are a lot of policies and procedures that we go through as adjusters and things that adjusters are supposed to do, but there's something you can't train, and that's empathy and sympathy. And when you look at these people that we're dealing with that are injured on the job, sometimes catastrophically, That's the most important thing. First thing that'll push someone to an attorney is you not understanding, you not taking care of them. They are hurt. They are scared. They don't know where their income is coming from. They don't know what this means for their job. And I think people forget that. Workers' comp's a little different. You've got a lifetime claim. You've got, the law telling you what you're going to make. But non-subscriber is a little bit different than that. So I think the good adjusters really, and the good companies really look at what's happening, who am I serving? And really, I know you're serving the client, but you're also serving that person. And so that's important.
Yeah. So I love how you talked about the lifetime claim comp. When I was first, it made me flash back to a memory when I was first appointed commissioner. We were looking through everything, and I found that we had this space that we were spending a lot of $300,000 a year leasing. And I thought, well, it's not one of our field offices, and it's certainly not this office. What is this facility that we're spending $300,000 a year on rent? And so they took me over to this giant warehouse full of old manila envelopes going back to the 60s of these claims with these lifetime tails on them. And ultimately, we were able to at least update them, get them all scanned and put into a computer, essentially a database and get out of that lease. But we didn't finalize it until Commissioner Brown was the commissioner. I was already gone, and so technically it's her credit. But we worked on it together. But yeah, the lifetime tails on those things is something you're not really aware of until you see a warehouse full of just manila folders, each one representing a different claim, which may or may not ever be reopened or looked at again. But it's very interesting to say that. And non-sub's a little bit different. Did any of that go into your calculations as to why you wanted to do non-sub exclusively?
I think part of it, like I said, I wanted to be an attorney, and that didn't work out, wasn't going to work out. And so I think when I look at non-sub, it's a perfect blend of work injury and litigation, liability. And so I was able to kind of use that portion of my liability background and still be in the work injury arena, serve people. And so that kind of, in workers' comp, I felt very detached. I think that those tails, like you said, I mean, it promotes, in my opinion, more fraud than the non-sub. And I was at the Institute, the Insurance Council, I think it was last month. And they were talking a lot about the fraud and the things that go on in workers' comp. And I feel like, and I don't have any evidence on this, but I feel like it's less in non-subscription because we do such a thorough investigation, because there is a tail on these. So really, in comparison, in non-sub, you've got 2 years to do everything you need to do. Whereas in workers' comp, there's no driving force because they've got the rest of their lives. So at least in non-sub, we want them to get in, we want them to get treated, and we want them to get better. Yeah,
and I'm guessing like everybody that handles claims in non-sub says something similar along the lines of getting hands-on, getting involved, being empathetic or sympathetic, and getting to know the patient, right? Or the injured employee. And so they've all got great stories of at least one time where they've seen the benefit of their approach actually helping an injured worker get back on the job and get the care that they need and get going with their life. I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but is there any stories coming to mind for you?
There actually is. There's one story, and it's just a few years ago, and I use it in my presentation. But this particular claim, I'd never seen anything like it. And like I said, it's just a few years ago. So this is after 25, 26 years in the industry. And then the supervisor also has another 20 years experience. And so what we had was a fatality, and the man was killed on the job. And we started looking for beneficiaries. We started looking for everything, and we couldn't find it because his green card was not legit. And so, of course, the employer wants to deny. We can't deny. They hired him. We start doing an investigation. His family is from, I don't remember if it was Guatemala, Honduras, somewhere abroad. There was a bunch of fraud there. It's a huge, long story with all the twists and turns. But what ended up happening is the mayor of that town, Guatemala or wherever it was, submitted fraudulently that his secretary had had a child from this man who had died. And so we had to fight that and try to prove it was fraud. Then we had to hire an attorney there who spoke the language to go out to the village, which was a thatch hut, and videotape and explain everything. And then the attorneys here got involved. And so it was probably a 6 month to a year process. But the carrier was very good about going above and beyond what's going to happen to this family. Eventually what happened is we actually moved them out from where they were. Our understanding was that the people in this town would take the money from the wife and she'd end up desolate. And so we actually ended up moving them out of the city that they were in. But I think there's a lot of opportunities for things like that if you really are innovative and think about the people, like I said, just like they're your own family. I mean, that's what I would want someone to do for me. And it's not anything I've ever done before. We've never had to research laws. We've never had to hire attorneys abroad or do anything like that. So it was an experience. I don't want to do it again. It was a costly experience, but I think we did the right thing. And that's something I always remember.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, that's really impressive. That's going above and beyond. That's not just hands-on. That's hands-on and dedication there.
Yeah, it definitely took some resources.
Yeah, that's that same grit that you have for your own career right there. That's impressive. So obviously you're not from a hut like that, but are you from San Antonio?
Originally, yes, I'm from San Antonio.
Okay.
I grew up on the northeast side.
Northeast side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's still a great part. There's some great legislators from the northeast side of San Antonio that have come through this building.
They are.
There's some good ones from the south side too.
My husband would agree with you there.
Yeah. Okay. I believe that.
My husband's Hispanic. I'm white. We fight all the time. He's way west side. I'm north side. They don't mix.
All right. Well, speaking of San Antonio and Austin, who has the better tacos?
Oh my gosh. I live in the middle, so I'd say my husband.
Okay.
Now, I personally am spoiled because I grew up in San Antonio. I love the tacos there. I haven't had an Austin taco in probably 10 years. I've heard they're getting much, much better and that they've killed San Antonio. We can go afterwards, I'll tell you.
There you go. No, this is what I love about the San Antonio delegation. The Capitol is always making fun of Austin for pretending to have good tacos, as they put it. So it's always this subtle put down, and I think you just hit it, right? Like I haven't had one in 10 years. I've heard they're getting better.
Yeah. There you go.
It's always there though. They answer the question, but you have to listen for it. But,
I live right in between San Antonio and Austin, so I have to be very gray line now. Okay. I can't take a stance either way because.
Actually, where you live is pretty interesting too. I think the people watching this might be interested to know about that. Okay.
I live in Candelia, Texas, which no one's ever heard of. But it's about 7 miles from Sisterdale. It's close to Bernie and Fredericksburg, which those are nowhere near each other, but it's kind of where we are. And once the kids graduated and left, we moved out there on 40 acres, and we have 32 animals. So I ride horses, so we have 2 horses now, 2 donkeys, 6 sheep, 8 goats, 7 cats, a dog, chickens.
Okay.
I mentioned the donkeys, right?
I think you did.
Okay.
Yes. I don't know if you knew this. Carl Seelbach at ARAWC also has a lot of animals.
Does he?
He does.
I know Carl, and we've never talked about it, so I'll have to.
We'll have to make that connection.
Exactly.
So people helping people right here on the podcast.
Exactly. No, it's always nice to talk to people about that. It's a great life. I love it. We have a garden, and like I was telling you earlier, COVID was not a problem for us. I mean, we may not see people for a week, and I'm all right with that.
But as I heard it, you were boiling snow for your horses.
Yeah, when we got snowed in for that week, and we're in the hill country, we didn't have any electricity. It was rolling, and horses, they're 1,500 to 2,000 pound animals. So I was having to take snow and put it in the fireplace and melt it, and then I'd have about that much and walk across and give it to the horses and come back and do it all over again. So I actually ended up pulling out both my elbows from just carrying, pounds and pounds of water all day long. So yeah, snow was not my friend that year.
So my takeaway from that is grit in your personal life as well. Just toughness, character.
Somewhere in here, I need to get some boundaries and start limiting.
But it sounds like you're loving it.
I am.
And I think you're going the opposite way, right? I mean,
I am. Yeah.
Limiting, right? Earlier you said you were glad that you're not traveling as much as you used to. But then you told me you could have to go out to the East Coast at some point.
Yes. I just bought interest in a racehorse. I love horse racing. It's what I do every weekend, to my detriment, I'm sure. But yeah, I just bought interest in a horse by the name of Caldera. She's out of Seize the Gray, who just won the Preakness. And she'll be running on the East Coast at Saratoga in probably a year or so. I'm really excited about that. No grit involved.
Yeah, there you go. Not that time.
No, horse has all the grit. I have none.
Okay, well, there you go. You're transferring the grit to the horse, right?
Exactly.
Hopefully.
I'm working on it.
There you go. All right, I'll have to come out to Fredericksburg and we'll have to. I didn't even know there was horse racing out there.
Yep, they have simulcast year round, which is my problem. But they have live racing. It starts 4th of July. It's in Fredericksburg, and I think it goes through like July or August. It's great. It's a lot of fun. It's not your modern, wonderful, box seats at the racetrack, but it's a lot of family fun.
Well, maybe the next time we do an ARAWC event up in Dallas, we could have a bonding trip out to what's the name of the track out there?
Lone Star.
Lone Star.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, I have them all memorized.
Yeah, no, it's a gorgeous.
It's a problem.
I loved it out there when I lived in Dallas, but now that I hadn't thought about it in years until you mentioned horse racing again. But
yeah, it's a lot of fun.
That place is air conditioning
and food.
Tim, Michael, leadership. I'm looking right at you. There's great food. There's air conditioning. There's rooms. There's areas you can rent out. We could host the meetings up on the 3rd floor. I think this idea has legs. I think it would get a lot of people there.
I think it has 4 legs, and I'd be there in a heartbeat. No problem. There actually was an attorney. He used to have a party there every year. I loved it. But I agree. I'd be there.
Okay, well, there we go. We know there's going to be 2 people there.
Exactly.
We know that much.
Exactly.
Maybe we can recruit some more between now and then.
Yeah.
But so we've talked about kind of the past and how you got to where you are and how you built your business. And when you first jump out on your own, it's pretty scary. You don't have clients, and you have to work and build. And I think all of us that have our own company, regardless of what it is, understand that. But you've had tremendous success. A lot of it is clearly your customer service, your hands-on attention. But obviously, in the last 30 years, claims handling has changed. There's been changes to the process. There's been introduction of computers at one point. We've seen a lot of change. Do you see that continuing? And again, this is called forecasting success. So obviously, you were able to forecast success in your own career up to this point. What do you see happening in the near future and going forward that might be disruptive or changing for the industry?
So, and I don't mind doing forecasts because lately the Texas, weather forecast hadn't been that great. So I'm all right with it.
No one's judging you on the crystal ball outlook.
I can tell you, I do remember the times of those manila folders. And like I said, we did do workers' comp. And I remember when we got out of it, I had to hire trucks of the shred that just came out and shredded tons of stuff. So we have come a long way. I continue to be amazed because, again, it's 30 years. When I was doing claims years ago, we had the little postcards that you would write down your weekly wages every week. And now it's all automated. And it's hard to translate that to adjusters nowadays. They don't understand that, we didn't have computers. We had computers, but they were really like that. I know dot matrix is a printer, but there's some kind of computer that's similar. So we've come a long way. I think with the introduction of AI, with what the carriers are doing, that there's going to be continued improvements. I know a lot of people have talked about the implementation of AI, of computers, and what that'll do to claims handling. I don't think it'll ever replace claims handling because you require that human touch, and I think you can't get that. But I know we've made some changes. So I think it was last year, I had a minor accident, and my car insurance sent me a text just letting me know, we've got your claim, here's your number. And so we started doing that. I thought, okay, this is something the carriers are doing that I wasn't aware of. And so we implemented now the texts. And so whenever people are injured, they get a text. We've implemented taking phone calls through the computer, which we didn't do. Old school, I had 8 phones out there with different adjusters doing whatever. So I think we continue to make improvements, but I will tell you, based on what I've seen in the last 30 years, I can't imagine where we'll be. Just seeing how things have changed, and for the better. I think definitely for the better. We've got so many things in the cloud now. We don't have to worry about keeping all that paper or, destroying it 10 years later. So I think we continue to improve. I don't know in what arena, but I think that's just based on my age. I think if I went home and asked my kids, they could tell me exactly where we're going.
Right. No, that's funny you say that. And just so you know, that AI has now officially passed the bar exam. So you could tell your husband that AI can replace him, but not you.
There we go.
Because AI can't have that hands-on. I think he'd get a kick out of that.
Yeah, like I said, he's listening at dinner. So tonight, that will be our discussion.
Yeah, make sure you tell him at the dinner table so you know he's listening now.
Well, he does run the ranch, so I know what he's going to tell me is that you can't replace me with the horses. So we'll see.
That's funny. But speaking of AI, there has been a lot of change with AI kind of coming into the market. I know this next legislative session at the Capitol we're already dubbing it the AI session. There's going to be a lot of bills and presumably a lot of guardrails put around AI. What all that looks like remains to be seen, but they are starting to have those conversations now. My former lobby assistant just went into the Senate last session, just came out. She and her fiance are starting a legislative AI platform. So she left me for AI. And
You've been replaced.
I've been replaced, and I actually now pay for her service too. So
wow.
It's pretty great. In fact, I sent a clip to ARAWC leadership. We had a Senate Health and Human Services hearing recently. And at the back end of the hearing, there was a witness that got up and talked about this bill that essentially passed 2 sessions ago, allowing Texas Mutual to write health insurance. And this was not on the charge. This was not one of the interim discussion topics, but this one was brought up to discuss what they're doing in terms of innovation. And because of Laura's company, I was able to find that real quick. Copy it and send to ARAWC leadership not only the exact video but a transcript of the testimony that went along with it. And that's something that would have taken us hours and hours and hours to pull. I was able to do it in 10 minutes. So there are some benefits to this new technology.
I think there are tons. In my age bracket, I'm not aware. I didn't know what AI was for a long time. And I thought that meant, the improvements of the computer. And I kept telling my son that, well, I'm going to use AI for that. And he was like, do you know what AI is? And evidently I didn't. So I'm glad to hear that they are making the improvements, and promise to read up on it when I get home.
Well, I think we're all that way. Everybody's kind of learning, and there's different AI technologies that are used for all sorts of different things, a lot of which have limitations and different things. We had one guest on this podcast who says they use there's an AI service to make logos and things like that.
I just paid for a logo.
Well, you may be okay, because apparently this particular service, and I've never used it, but he was saying it can't spell. So the logo comes out great, but the name of the company is always wrong, and they can't quite, I guess, solve that. But Chat GPT is a real popular one. It has its uses, it has its limitations, but I think as this technology evolves, those limitations probably be less and less of a hindrance in using it.
Oh yeah, it's amazing how much those things develop over the years. I remember a time when we didn't have cell phones. I remember a time when there was cartoons on Saturday morning till noon. Things change so much, and I think sometimes we miss the change because there's so much we don't even recognize that it's happening. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's tons of things right now in the pipeline that I'm just not even aware of, or that we're not aware of.
Yeah, I just learned about a service today from you essentially a transcription.
Yeah,
type.
dragon or dragonfly, but you actually just talk into the microphone and it transcribes it as you're talking. I think it's got some of the same quirks that you were talking about with AI as far as spelling and having to go back, but it saves hours of manual typing time and those kind of things. I like it.
Yeah. So there, as a convenience tool, I see a lot of benefits, but as a replacement function, I don't see that at all, at least anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't either.
It's pretty funny. I think one of the guests on here, we were talking about jobs and job replacement, and I said I think at some point we were talking about robots, and I said, well, yeah, what if a robot comes and can assemble the car quicker than a person can? Now you got robot timelines on the car, so those people lost their jobs. And the response back was they didn't necessarily lose that job, yes, was lost, but then all of a sudden a new job emerges for people that know how to fix the robots. Mm-hmm. So it's more
that makes sense.
It's more of a transitory application for, so I think the message he was trying to say was AI will not replace your job, but the person who knows how to use AI might. Yeah. And I thought that was a pretty interesting perspective. But I think we're all learning about it too at the same time, right? So
yeah, and I think the kids do have a good curve on that. My son is in data analytics, which I didn't even know what that was, but I think you're right. That was created from a need when we improved to computers and everything else. So I think that's exactly right. As we continue to implement these technology, I think it will build other jobs. And that's a good point.
Yeah, it's something to think about.
Yeah.
As we're looking into the crystal ball of the future, besides AI, do you see any other significant potential changes to disruptions to the future of claims handling?
Not that I've seen. I think 5 years ago, we were more worried about what kind of changes were going to happen. And everything that I've seen, like I was talking about, just the few little things, the texting and the phone calls through the computer, they've all been positive. But I can't imagine what other things are in store for us. I haven't heard anything big with the carriers lately. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where we follow. We follow the carriers. We kind of find out what they're doing. So I can't imagine. I'd probably have to ask my kids. They would know.
There you go. That maybe all of us need to do that, right?
Well, unless they're 7 or 8.
Well, I don't know. My middle kid is 8, and I bet you she might have an idea.
True.
Although I remember when our oldest was in first grade, COVID hit, and so she did everything at home, and they just sent the kids home with iPads and did everything on an iPad, including classes. They were Zooming into class in first grade.
Wow.
So, I mean, obviously kids at that age need social interaction. So, I mean, it wasn't perfect, and I certainly wouldn't recommend that as a delivery style for academics. But, if you have to, they can do it. And these kids know how to do that tech. I could barely flip the dial from 4 or 5 to 8 on Saturday mornings for the cartoons.
Exactly.
When I was growing up.
I just have a brand new grandbaby. She's 13 weeks, and my son, I was over there trying to help him out, and I have to have my computer up. I still need to see, and he was so funny. Mom, you need to take the light away from her, blue light or whatever the computer screens are. And I thought, Lord, and they have her on an app, when she sleeps and when she eats. And I just thought, oh my God. So yeah, I think there are a lot of things that the younger generation is really hip to. I wanted to go buy a backpack for a friend's child the other day for school, and I didn't know they don't use them anymore.
Yeah, interesting.
They don't need the books. They don't need all the things. So yeah, everything's come a long way.
Yeah, that's for sure. And we'll continue to do so, right? I mean, I'm nostalgic for Saturday morning cartoons. I was hoping that my kids would have that same opportunity.
You remember Tarzan after it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course.
That was my best part. Tarzan after that. And then at night, do you remember the line and the flag would come on, and that was it. You didn't have TV after midnight.
Yeah.
It was, back in the day.
Back in the day. Now it's
dating myself.
Now it's like a million channels, 24 hours a day.
And Netflix.
And different apps. Yeah. I mean, it's mostly app-based now.
Yeah. Is that considered AI?
No, I don't think so. Ziggy, is that AI?
He asleep?
I don't believe so. It took me a minute to get my mic going, but
I threw you a curveball there. Anyway.
No, you're good. You're good.
He's like, great. Now I gotta edit this out too.
I am on top.
Oh,
of
look
there
at
he
you!
is.
Don't worry.
All right. Thank you, Ziggy. That's very helpful. So, no, we now have official confirmation that is not AI.
Yep.
And if there's anybody that would know, it's Ziggy.
Yeah, and that Ziggy exists.
Yeah.
Now,
That's right.
Ziggy is there.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have a regular portion of the podcast, the Ziggy portion, and
Absolutely.
yeah, or Ziggy gets to ask questions, and we get to ask questions of Ziggy.
I'm trying to think what rhymes with Ziggy, like Ziggy's Corner or something.
Ooh, Ziggy's Corner.
What if we call it Zigs Zags?
Oh, there we go. That's a good one.
He's already ready. He's good. He's there. He's
Yeah.
ready for it.
Yep. You don't even need a marketer, Ziggy. You got it.
All right. Well, so now that we brought Ziggy into the mix, is there anything that not just in terms of where you see the industry going, but just kind of in general regarding non-subscription? We were talking before the camera came on, for example, about attempts in other states previously, and just kind of is there anything? It could be on any subtopic at all that you think is interesting, or you think it should be discussed, or just anything regarding non-sub. Where are we going? What are we doing? Just off the top of your head, anything out there that you think would be interesting for our viewers?
I don't know how interesting for the viewers, but I'll definitely give my opinion on the status of non-sub and where we're going, or where I think we're going. And I love what ARAWC is doing. I think it's important. I love the legislative updates that we see. I think it's important. I would like to see definitely non-sub go into other states. I was in Arizona about a month or two ago, and I gave a presentation on non-subscription, and they were totally floored. They didn't know anything about it. They didn't understand it, and then when we went through it specifically, they wanted to know more, and I think that's important. I think education is the biggest thing. I've preached that for probably 15 of my 30 years. Back in the day, the agents really didn't sell it well because they didn't understand it enough. I think the agents understand it much better now. And so I think it's important that we get out there and we educate everybody on what it is, what the alternative is. It's been successful. Like I said, I was there when HEB opted out, and that was 30 years ago. And they're still non-subscribers. So it's a program that works. I think it has potential all across the United States, but I think it's important that we get out there and explain what it is, how a well-run program runs, and how it can be beneficial in other states.
Yeah. All of those are excellent points and great testaments to non-sub. And you're right, for a lot of the big companies and big employers that are members of ARAWC too, it's really worked great. And anytime we get a chance to tell the story, people are interested and want to know more. And I think the fact that you have taken the workers' comp piece out of your business altogether and focused on non-sub is a great example of that. And I think that more companies that are aware of what it is that what non-subscription is and how it works are tempted to make that leap and probably should, for the betterment of not just them, but for the care of their injured workers as well. Because as you said, you have to care more and you want to care more, and that empathy and sympathy that you bring is a testament, and probably one of the best reasons why you have a 100% client retention rate and 100% employee retention rate, because you do it right. You know you do, and in the process you're pulling yourself up with that grit that I keep mentioning because I'm so impressed by it.
I might go home and clean my face of any dirt or grit. But
no, not that kind of grit.
That I may still
the pull yourself up and keep going grit that is such an admirable quality.
Thank you. Yeah, I adore non-subscription. It's always been my passion, and I think it works, and I think it works well. And I think a lot of people, like right now, the market's so soft, the premiums are so close. we're not seeing a lot of people opting out or making the change. But
Yeah.
I think it's not a premium. It's not solely a premium issue. I think, like we've been talking about, a well-run program really pays for itself. You know, the reduction in length of disability, the reduction in quality medical care. I think those are important things that run much better in a non-subscription versus workers' comp. And so when we're looking strictly at rates and premiums and all those kind of things, I don't think we're taking into account a number of other benefits of non-sub.
Very well said.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank you for being on the podcast today.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. A little nervous coming in about what you might corner me with, but it was very pleasant. I appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to do so. And try not to corner anybody on here. There are some guests that might deserve it more, but you're definitely not on that list.
Thank you. I've got grit. I'll come after you.
There you go. That's right. That's right. I'm more afraid to try to corner you than anything. In all honesty, Michelle Villarreal coming on here has been an absolute joy. You can see why she has so much success, and you can see why everybody likes working with her, because she does a great job and she takes care of her employees, not just your employees, and it's just an absolute joy to talk to. So thank you again for coming on, and that's it. That's another edition of Forecasting Success. Your host, Brian Brannan. Until next time, thank you again. ARAWC.